Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. This is one that's been requested for a long time, so I'm ready to pull it up today. I promised some more World War I content, but this isn't quite what you were probably expecting. This is BBC's Origins of World War I. It's a rap. It's not Epic Rap Battles of History. It's put out by the BBC, which I love the BBC. As someone who's a huge Anglophile, I watch a lot of BBC content. I even have the BritBox subscription on my Fire Stick, so I can watch all the British TV shows. So I'm excited to dive into this one and see what it's all about. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so we got all the major players here of the events of World War I. We've got King George V, Kaiser Wilhelm II, who are cousins, of course, both grandsons of Queen Victoria. Tsar Nicholas II and Kaiser Wilhelm are cousins, as are Tsar Nicholas II and George V. And then we've got Emperor Franz Joseph down in Austria-Hungary, who ended up dying in the middle of World War I. Gabriel Princip, who kind of kicks off the events of World War I by assassinating Franz Joseph's nephew and heir. And then we have General Joffre of France. So, all right, let's do this. He fired 2 shots because he killed Sophie also.
Your fatty friends Ferdinand didn't see Princip's pistol. Too busy guzzling his 10th Wiener Schnitzel. Pop the cap in his ass for my black-hand brothers. Shave off that tash, it's bigger than your mother's. Now just like your bald head, you ain't got no air. I spit rhyme as your empire decline. Have you any notion of United Slav Nation? You catch my drift, or do you want a translation?
So, first of all, the guy looks just like Franz Joseph. Now, I don't know how tall Franz Joseph was, but they're obviously implying that he was short. So, we're going to have to throw on the glasses and look this up because I find myself curious about this. Okay, so I found a few things. I couldn't find an actual source saying how tall Franz Joseph was, but I did find a source saying that his wife, Empress Elizabeth, was 5'8". So if she was 5'8", my man was definitely over 6 feet tall. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it certainly looks that way from these photos. And incidentally, Empress Elizabeth was actually assassinated herself in, I think it was 1898. So Franz Joseph was well acquainted with the assassination of people around him. Now, Gabriel Princip says he has no heir. Of course, he had an heir, just went to another one of his nephews. But I get what he's saying there.
Serbia got friends, yo. Russia's our homie. Think we're scared? Here's 2 words for you. Blow me.
You want the war, Gav? We bring the pain, Slav. Blood spilled in Sarajevo, gonna cause a bloodbath, yo. Russians, Mongols, Turks, my bitches. Best watch out, cause my trigger finger itches. You're tiresome. You're irksome. Like a Slavic Jeremy Clarkson.
Huh? Who the hell is that?
And here comes George V peeking in, and he really does look like him too. He talks about my trigger finger itches, and that honestly describes most of the major players in Europe at this time. They were all building up their militaries, and Europe was on edge. And as we've talked about before, if it hadn't been the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, it would have probably been something else that would have kicked off a major conflict in Europe. So I get what he's saying there. Let's see what George V has to say. Or no, that's Nicholas II. I'm sorry. Common thing that happens, George V and Nicholas II, who were first cousins through their mothers, were so similar in appearance. They actually, there's I think a photo of them wearing each other's uniforms. They looked easily like they could have been brothers. So I guess this is probably Tsar Nicholas.
Back to the story of doom. For poor tiny Serbia is about to go boom. You hear me, assassin? Our troops are massing. Get ready for the bombing, the shooting, the gassing. Here is the deal, yo. She just got real, yo. You'll be crushed under Austro-Hungary's heel, yo. I'll take you in the Balkans at the Great Belgrade. Even if those Russians are rushing to your aid.
Oh, there's Nicholas.
You think so? Oh, crap. Prince Joseph, Serbia's our brethren. Same blood, same religion, same Slavic complexion.
So I get now what I think's happening here, because I don't think Tsar Nicholas was that big of a guy. I think they're intentionally using the size of the people to show relative strength. Compared to Russia, Austria-Hungary was very weak. Compared to even France, they were pretty weak. That's why they had their friend in Germany. So I think that's what they're kind of doing here. And yeah, he's right. Serbia, the reason Russia has the ties to Serbia is because of their common ethnic background, common Orthodox religion, things like that.
We're packing more army than you got salami. So stop your bragging, your trolling. Or the Cossack paint train starts rolling. Last time you kicked off a swift revolution. This time my solution is your dissolution. Beware the Russian bear.
Everyone knows me.
Here comes Wilhelm. He rolls his eyes.
Hooey. I'm Kaiser Wilhelm II. The first was a gas, but like the Godfather, the sequel kicks ass. Go clowns to the west of me and jokers to the east. But Austro-Hungary is my mate. Gonna eradicate the Serbian beast.
So, kind of a cool story here. And as we know, all these families are related to each other anyway. But with the recent passing of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh in England. Prince Philip, of course, is from the Greek and Danish royal families. But his sister was married to a grandson of Kaiser Wilhelm. Just one of many of those kind of intermarriages that happened between all these different royal families.
So back off, Kaiser Nick. Don't take the mick and tell your mates France not to interfere. This ain't no prance, it's a German Vorder.
So he says take the mick. I think that's, somebody from the UK helped me out with this, but I think that's an expression for teasing somebody. I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong, so correct me if I am. What is this dance? Oh my gosh. Here comes George. Yep, George V.
Chill out, cousin Willie. Stop acting so silly. You'll be tripping by flipping the bird willy-nilly. The armies of the Triple Entente, mighty. Russia, France, and this bitch, blighty. Your rhymes are the shambles, your words are the gamble. You're taking an enormous punt. No wonder my homies...
Oh, I know where this is going to go, Ryan.
You're a massive, difficult chap. You're
Now, I know, I think that CU word that it was implied he was going to use there, I don't think that word is considered quite as crude in the UK as it is here in the United States. In the United States, it's pretty much one of the worst words you can use. I think it's much more common in the UK and doesn't have nearly that kind of level of distaste, I guess you could say.
Toil ambition puts us in this position, so go ahead, cuz, rant and rave. Your plans will be sunk like your floating junk. Royal Britannia rules the waves.
Yes. So there was a big kind of naval arms race going on, particularly between the German Empire and the United Kingdom. The Germans were trying to rival rule Britannia, so to speak. They obviously were never going to get there, but they did try. And they never really, other than the Battle of Jutland, didn't really have a big showdown between the two navies. But that was really kind of the pride of the UK, was their navy.
Empire braggarts, you hate the French and their snail-sucking, frog-cooking garlic stench. As for your dreadnoughts, wave them goodbye. I'll make your navy into gravy for sauerkraut pie. Gonna send my thoughts through Belgium into France. Nothing can stop this Teutonic advance.
So yeah, speaking of the history there, obviously the Schlieffen plan by the Germans was to quickly attack France through Belgium to get around their strong defenses on the border with Germany. Remember, these two had fought a major war not even 50 years, or well, a little over 40 years before that, the Franco-Prussian War. And Germany had just steamrolled through France, and so France wasn't going to let that happen again. They had built up some pretty powerful defenses on the border with Germany, so Germany wanted to get around that by going through Belgium, but of course violating Belgian neutrality is what brings the UK into the war, because the UK was kind of on the fence about entering the war until that happened.
Germany will rise again like the past, a glorious empire built to last. Let me tell you, this ain't no mystery. Wilhelm the Great will go down in history.
Wilhelm the Great more like Billy No Mates. Your ideas are absurd. We gave Bill to my word. We've got no choice if you won't behave. Our poor old grandma must be spinning in her grave.
Our grandmother, because they're both, as I mentioned earlier, they're both grandsons of Queen Victoria. Basically, all the royal families of Europe are descended from two people, Queen Victoria and Christian IX of Denmark. Between those two, pretty much every royal family descends, and they're all second or third cousins for the most part. In this case, these two were first cousins.
Granny! Look into my eyes, you see compromise, your collective demise will see our rise. I'll come back down now, I'll look at clown now. Ain't shit that can stop this countdown now.
And that's unfortunate too. And if you think of World War I, it is kind of like a countdown where, you know, you get to a point where it's too late to stop it. Like, you know, if you think of July as being when all the diplomacy is going on and all the mobilization's going on, they get to a place where it's like the momentum has rolled so much that even if they wanted to stop it, they couldn't. And they had the willy-nicky telegrams where Kaiser Wilhelm and Tsar Nicholas were behind the scenes trying to stop things. And we've talked about this before in depth, talking about World War I. It was just so frustrating and so sad to watch that unfold and realize that there were so many points in July at which this could have been stopped. And by stopping World War I, you potentially stop World War II and the Cold War and everything that comes after it. I mean, all of human history from that point on could have been different based on some things that happened in July the way they did.
I'm going for a lie down now.
Did Joffrey even speak? He just kind of stood there and watched. All right, so that was pretty interesting. Gavrilo Princip was too young to be executed. Based on the laws that were in place at the time. So he ends up going to prison for life, but he dies a few years later, like right around the time of the end of the war. And of course, Tsar Nicholas doesn't survive to the end of the war. Franz Joseph is dead by the end of the war. Didn't die in the war, but died in 1916, I think. Succeeded by Karl IV. And George V lives until 1936 when he's succeeded by his son, Edward VIII, and then his other son, George VI, who is then the father. So George V, that's the grandfather of the current queen, our current queen. She's not my queen. It shows you my mindset. Queen Elizabeth II. And so, yeah, fascinating, all of them. And Kaiser Wilhelm lives up until around 1940, I think. Gets to see the beginning of World War II and all of that goes along with that. But let me know your thoughts about that. I'm sure many of you have already seen it, but it was new for me, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Use the comment section below. Drop a like if you would. I'll put a link in the description to the original content over on the BBC. Thanks for watching.